sister-in-law tried to seduce me to ruin my marriage, and my wife believed her, so I divorced her, and she now regrets it. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. So, this happened over the past 2 years, and I'm finally ready to share the full story. Names changed for obvious reasons, but everything else is 100% true. Still can't believe how this all played out. I, 33 male, work as a project manager for a mid-sized construction company here in Phoenix. Make decent money, around $95,000 plus bonuses. Not rich by any means, but comfortable. Been married to my wife Emma, 32 female, for 5 years. Together for 7 total. We met through mutual friends at a party back in college. She was studying marketing. I was in business management. Emma's great, smart, hardworking, and we split everything 50-50. We've been saving up to buy a house and maybe start a family. Both pretty laid-back people who don't need fancy shit to be happy. We drive reliable cars, live in a decent apartment, and our biggest splurge is probably our annual camping trip to Colorado. But this story isn't about Emma. It's about her younger sister Megan, 28 female, who is without a doubt the most toxic, entitled, gold-digging bitch I've ever had the misfortune of knowing. Let me paint you a picture of Megan. This woman has never held a real job in her entire adult life, and I mean never. She's worked at a few retail stores and restaurants, but always gets fired within weeks for showing up late, arguing with customers, or just not showing up at all. Her longest employment streak was 6 weeks at a Starbucks, and she only lasted that long because the manager had a crush on her. Instead of working like a normal human being, Megan spends her days crafting the perfect Instagram posts. She has maybe 1,200 followers, half of them probably bots, and swiping through dating apps looking for her Prince Charming, aka any guy making 6 figures who's dumb enough to fall for her act. This girl literally has entrepreneur and influencer in her Instagram bio. Her business is selling overpriced face masks from some MLM pyramid scheme. I've never seen her make a single sale, but she posts about her empire constantly. It's honestly pathetic. Megan still lives with their parents at 28 years old, rent-free obviously. She drives a 2016 Nissan Altima that daddy bought her, but she tells people it's just temporary until she gets her dream car. Apparently a white BMW, because that's what all the Instagram influencers drive. Her wardrobe is entirely fake designer shit. I'm talking obvious knockoff Gucci bags that probably cost $40 on Wish, Louis Vuitton shoes that are missing half the letters, and Michael Kors purses from outlet malls that she pretends are full price. She posts photos of this junk with captions like, "Blessed," and "Living my best life," like she's some kind of socialite instead of an unemployed mooch. The family dynamic is completely fucked. Megan is clearly the golden child who can do no wrong, while Emma is the responsible one expected to clean up everyone's messes. During family dinners, Megan dominates every conversation. If Emma starts talking about work or anything interesting, Megan will literally interrupt her mid-sentence to talk about some guy she met on Bumble or complain about how hard it is to be an influencer. Their mom always takes Megan's side too. Like when Megan makes snide comments about Emma's clothes being too corporate or her lifestyle being boring, their mom will laugh and say shit like, "Oh, you know Megan, she's just being honest," or "She has such great fashion sense." I've watched Emma's face during these moments. There's always this flash of hurt, but she never fights back. She just takes it because that's what she's been trained to do her whole life. The first major red flag should have been at Emma's birthday dinner 2 years ago. We went to this nice steakhouse. Nothing crazy expensive, but definitely not cheap. The whole family was there celebrating Emma's promotion at work. Instead of congratulating her sister, Megan spent the entire dinner complaining about how the restaurant was too dark for good Instagram photos and asking our waiter if he knew any single doctors or lawyers. Then when the bill came, Megan just sat there scrolling her phone while everyone else reached for their wallets. Her dad ended up paying for her $60 meal without even blinking. Emma later told me this was completely normal. Megan never pays for anything because she doesn't have money right now, but somehow always has cash for new makeup and fake nails. The first time I met Megan at a family barbecue, I knew immediately that she was trouble. Emma had told her family I was a project manager in construction, and apparently Megan heard construction and thought I was either broke or secretly loaded. Her first question to me wasn't "nice to meet you" or anything a normal person would say. She straight up asked, "So like, what kind of construction? Do you build houses or like Bigger stuff? When I explained that I manage commercial projects like office buildings and retail spaces, I could see the wheels turning in her head. Oh, so you must work with a lot of contractors and suppliers, she said, leaning in way too close. That must be really good money, right? Like 6 figures? Emma looked mortified but didn't say anything. I just gave a vague answer about it being decent work, but Megan kept pushing. Throughout the entire barbecue, she kept asking invasive questions about my truck, my apartment, whether I had savings, if I was planning to buy a house soon. It was like being interrogated by the world's most obvious gold digger. The worst part was how she talked about her own career. She spent 20 minutes telling me about her MLM business and how she was going to be financially free within 2 years. She showed me her Instagram account and talked about all her brand partnerships. I looked later. She had maybe 3 posts promoting random garbage with like 15 likes each. I only date guys who understand entrepreneurship, she said, while giving me this weird, flirty look. Most guys are intimidated by successful women like me. I almost choked on my burger. This unemployed 26-year-old living with mommy and daddy thought she was too successful for most men. The delusion was incredible. For the next couple years, I only saw Megan at major holidays and family events, which was perfectly fine with me. But I started noticing weird patterns. She'd always find excuses to sit near me at dinner tables. She'd ask Emma about my work schedule and when I'd be at family events. During group photos, she'd somehow always end up standing next to me. The comments were subtle but definitely inappropriate. Things like, Emma's so lucky to have found a guy with such a stable job while staring directly at me, or I wish I could find a man who works as hard as you do, with this lingering eye contact that made my skin crawl. Emma either didn't notice or chose to ignore it. Whenever I brought up Megan's weird behavior, Emma would just say I was overthinking things, or that Megan was just being friendly because she didn't have many friends. No shit, she doesn't have friends. Who wants to hang around someone that toxic? Last spring, I got promoted to senior project manager with a pretty significant raise. Jumped from $95,000 to $125,000 plus better bonuses. Emma and I were psyched because it meant we could finally start seriously looking at houses. We celebrated by upgrading my old Ford F-150 to a new 2023 Chevy Silverado. Nothing too flashy, but definitely nicer than what I'd been driving. The first family gathering after the promotion was Emma's mom's birthday dinner. Megan showed up in some ridiculous outfit that was basically a dress pretending to be a shirt, and she immediately zeroed in on the new truck. "Oh my God, is this yours?" she squealed, running her hands along the hood like she was caressing a lover. "This must have cost like $60,000. It didn't cost anywhere near that much, but I just said it was a work upgrade. Big mistake." That gave her an opening to start asking about the promotion, how much the raise was, whether I got stock options, if I was looking at buying a house soon. She was like a bloodhound sniffing out money. "You know," she said while posing for selfies with my truck, "successful men like you deserve someone who understands ambition. Not everyone can handle dating someone with real money." She said this loud enough for Emma to hear, and I saw Emma's face tighten. But instead of telling her sister to back off, Emma just changed the subject. That should have been another red flag. Emma was already making excuses for Megan's shitty behavior. After that dinner, Megan's social media stalking went into overdrive. She started following me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, even fucking TikTok, which I barely use. Every time I'd decline her follow requests, she'd send new ones within days. My LinkedIn profile views went through the roof because she was checking it constantly. Then she escalated to showing up at my work site. The first time, she claimed she was driving by and saw my truck. My current project is a new shopping complex about 30 minutes from anywhere she'd have business being, so that was obviously bullshit. "I brought you coffee," she said, holding up a Starbucks cup like it was some grand gesture. "Thought you might need some energy for all that hard work." She was wearing this low-cut top and kept leaning over my truck's tailgate while we talked, making sure I had a clear view down her shirt. She asked what time I usually wrapped up work, if I ever needed help with administrative stuff, whether I ever got lonely working such long hours. The whole interaction felt like a bad porn setup. I politely declined the coffee and told her I needed to get back to work, but she lingered for another 10 minutes asking about the project, how many guys I supervised, what my daily schedule looked like. Finally, she left, but not before saying, "You work so hard, you should let someone take care of you sometime." When I told Emma about it that night, she brushed it off. Megan's been driving around a lot lately looking for a new job. She probably really was just passing by. Yeah, right. Looking for a job. The girl who's never kept a job longer than 2 months is suddenly career-focused enough to be driving around industrial areas? But I didn't want to start a fight, so I let it go. 2 weeks later, Megan pulled the same stunt. This time, she brought lunch from some expensive sandwich place downtown, claiming she thought I might be hungry. The sandwich probably cost $18, which for someone with no income is a pretty big investment unless you're expecting a return. You know, she said while unwrapping the sandwich like it was a Christmas present, Emma is so lucky to have a man who provides for her. Not all women appreciate that kind of security. When I asked her what she meant by that, she just smiled and said, "Oh, nothing. I just think some people don't realize what they have. But I notice these things." The implication was clear. She was hinting that Emma didn't appreciate me enough, and that she would be different. I told her firmly that I was busy and didn't have time for lunch, but she kept insisting, acting all pouty like, "But I drove all this way and I'm hungry too. We could eat together." I finally had to be blunt and tell her I wasn't interested in having lunch with her, period. She got this weird look on her face like she couldn't believe I was rejecting her amazing offer, rolled her eyes, and left in a huff. That night, I told Emma the whole story, emphasizing how inappropriate and persistent Megan had been. Emma's response floored me. "She's probably just trying to butter you up so you'll convince me to let her come on our vacation this summer." Apparently, Megan had been begging Emma to let her tag along on our planned trip to Yellowstone. Emma had said no because we wanted it to be just us, and also because the idea of spending a week in a tent with Megan sounded like actual hell. But Emma thought that's why Megan was suddenly being so nice to me. "She doesn't have any money for her own vacation," Emma explained. "She's probably hoping if she's sweet to you, you'll feel bad for her and say she can come with us." I gave Emma a serious look and said, "That's not what this is about. She's flirting with me, and it's getting worse." Emma laughed it off. "Trust me, Megan has her sights set way higher than a construction manager. She's looking for doctors and lawyers, remember? You're not rich enough for her standards." That comment stung more than I wanted to admit, but I let it slide. Emma was probably right. Megan was always talking about finding a millionaire husband, but my gut was telling me something else was going on. Months ago, Emma had to travel to Denver for a week-long marketing conference. She goes every year for continuing education credits. I was looking forward to a week of peace and quiet. Order some pizza, catch up on Netflix, maybe work on some projects around the apartment. On Wednesday night around 8:30 p.m., I was on the couch in my gym shorts and a t-shirt, just relaxing after a long day supervising concrete pours, when the doorbell rang. I figured it was a delivery driver or maybe our upstairs neighbor, who sometimes locks himself out. I made the catastrophic mistake of opening the door without checking the peephole first. Megan was standing there in this tight black dress that barely covered her ass, full makeup like she was going to a club, and a huge fake smile. She was holding a bag of takeout from some expensive Thai place downtown. "Surprise," she said, pushing past me into my apartment before I could react. "I brought dinner. I figured you must be starving eating bachelor food all week." I was completely caught off guard. "Megan, what the hell are you doing here? Emma's at her conference." "I know, silly," she said, already unpacking food containers on my kitchen counter like she owned the place. "That's why I'm here. I felt bad thinking about you all alone eating ramen noodles, or whatever guys eat when their wives aren't around." She'd brought enough food for like 4 people. Pad thai, green curry, spring rolls, some fancy rice dish. This stuff probably cost $80, which again, for someone with no income, is a major expense. "Look, this is really inappropriate," I said firmly. "Emma's not here, and you shouldn't be either. I think you should leave." Megan ignored me completely and started setting up the food on my coffee table. "Oh, come on, don't be such a prude. I'm just being nice. We're family, right?" She sat down on my couch and patted the cushion next to her. "Come eat with me. I got your favorite. Emma told me you love Thai food." The fact that she'd asked Emma about my food preferences was creepy enough, but I stayed standing. "I'm not hungry. You need to take this food and go." That's when her mask started slipping. She gave me this look like she couldn't believe I was rejecting her generous offer. "Seriously? I spent my own money on this expensive dinner, and you won't even sit down with me? I didn't ask you to buy dinner. I don't want you here." She stood up and moved closer to me, close enough that I could smell her overpowering perfume. "You know what your problem is? You're too loyal to my sister. She doesn't appreciate what she has." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Emma takes you for granted," Megan said, reaching out to touch my arm. "She's always working, always focused on her career. When's the last time she made you feel special? When's the last time she really took care of you?" I stepped back from her touch. "My marriage is none of your business." "I'm just saying," she continued, moving closer again. "Some women know how to treat a man properly. Some women understand that a hard-working guy like you deserves more attention." The implication was crystal clear. I pointed toward the door. Get out. Now. Instead of leaving, she actually moved even closer and put her hand on my chest. Why are you fighting this? I see how you look at me at family dinners. I know you've thought about it. I've never looked at you any way except annoyed. Get your hands off me. Come on, she whispered, pressing herself against me. Emma's 1,000 miles away. Nobody has to know. I can give you things she can't. That's when I completely lost my shit. I grabbed her wrist and yanked her hand off my chest. Are you out of your fucking mind? Get the hell out of my house right now. She started laughing like this was all some big joke. Relax, I'm just having some fun with you. God, you're so uptight. But then her expression changed, and she got this predatory look in her eyes that made my stomach turn. Although, we are all alone, and I did spend a lot of money on this dinner. Don't you think you owe me something? I marched to the front door and threw it open. Get out! Get the fuck out of my apartment right now! As she was gathering up her purse and the stupid takeout containers, she turned back with this smug smile. You know where to find me when you get tired of playing house with my boring sister? I'll be waiting. I slammed the door so hard the frame shook and immediately tried calling Emma. It was past 10 p.m. in Denver, so she didn't answer. I left a voicemail asking her to call me back ASAP, but I didn't want to explain the whole situation in a message. I spent the entire night trying to reach Emma, kicking myself for not recording the conversation with Megan. The more I thought about it, the more I realized how perfectly Megan had orchestrated the whole thing. She waited until Emma was out of town, showed up at night when it would be just us, brought expensive food to make it look like I'd invited her over. If I hadn't rejected her advances, she probably would have tried to seduce me and then held it over my head forever. I finally got through to Emma the next morning, but before I could even start explaining what happened, she was absolutely hysterical. How could you do this to my sister? She's devastated. She was just trying to be nice to you. My blood went cold. Emma, what are you talking about? Megan called me crying at midnight. She told me everything that happened. Turns out Megan had called Emma just an hour after leaving my apartment with a completely fabricated story. According to Megan's version, she had brought me dinner as a friendly gesture because she felt bad that I was alone all week. But when she got to the apartment, I answered the door, acting strange, and invited her in. Megan claimed that I'd been complaining about Emma being gone all the time for work and how lonely I was. She said I kept trying to get her to sit closer to me on the couch and that I was making inappropriate comments about her dress. Then, supposedly, I grabbed her hand and tried to pull her toward the bedroom, saying something like, Emma doesn't have to know. According to this bullshit story, Megan had to fight me off and threaten to scream before I finally let her leave. She told Emma she was traumatized and scared, and that she'd never felt so uncomfortable in her life. The whole story was complete fiction, but Megan sold it with Academy Award-worthy performance, complete with tears and dramatic details about how shocked she was that I would betray Emma like that. She's my sister, Emma screamed through the phone. How could you try to... with my own sister? I tried to stay calm and explain what really happened, but Emma wasn't having it. Every time I tried to tell my side, she'd cut me off with, Megan would never lie about something like this, or why would she make up such a horrible story? Emma, think about this logically, I said. Why would I suddenly make a move on Megan after years of barely tolerating her? You know how I feel about her. This doesn't make any sense. Her response destroyed me. I don't know. Maybe you've been thinking about it for a while and finally acted on it. She is prettier than me, and she doesn't work 60 hours a week. I was speechless. My wife of 5 years actually believed I would cheat on her with her unemployed, gold-digging sister, who I'd never shown the slightest interest in. You really think I'm capable of that? I asked. I don't know what to think anymore, she said coldly. Megan was sobbing. She said you were like a different person. When Emma got back from Denver 3 days later, she went straight to her parents' house instead of coming home. She wouldn't answer my calls and only responded to texts with things like, I need time to process this, and I can't look at you right now. The few times I did manage to get her on the phone over the next 2 weeks, she was ice cold. Megan had apparently told their parents too, so now the entire family was treating me like a sexual predator. Emma kept saying things like, my whole family is disgusted, and my dad wants to come over and beat the shit out of you. I reminded Emma of all the times I'd told her about Megan's inappropriate behavior, the constant social media stalking, the surprise visits to my work site, the obvious flirting at family dinners. But Emma dismissed everything. That's just how Megan is, she said. She's friendly with everyone. You're the one who misinterpreted it as something sexual. So you think I've been lying about her behavior for months? I think you convinced yourself that she was interested in you, and then when you made a move, she rejected you, so now you're trying to make her look like the bad guy. That's when I knew there was no coming back from this. Emma didn't just believe Megan's lies. She had constructed an entire narrative where I was some kind of predator who had been fantasizing about her sister for months. After 3 weeks of this bullshit, I decided to make one final attempt at reasoning with Emma. I drove to her parents' house to try to have a face-to-face conversation without Megan there poisoning the well. Big mistake. The moment Emma's dad opened the door, he started screaming about how I wasn't welcome there and how I should be ashamed of myself. Emma's mom was standing behind him with her arms crossed, giving me looks like I was some kind of disease. "You've got some nerve showing up here," her dad said. "After what you did to Megan." "I didn't do anything to Megan," I said firmly. "She lied to all of you." Emma appeared at the door looking at me like I was a complete stranger. "What do you want?" "I want to talk to my wife without her family acting like I'm a criminal." "I have nothing to say to you," she said coldly. "Do you trust me at all?" I asked her directly. "After 7 years together, do you believe I'm capable of what Megan accused me of?" Emma stared at me for a long moment, then said, "I don't know who you are anymore." That was it. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "Fine. If you want to believe your lying, manipulative sister over your own husband, then you can have her. I'm done with all of you." I walked away from that house knowing my marriage was over. The next week, I contacted a divorce lawyer and filed papers citing irreconcilable differences. When Emma got served, she sent me a long text about how I was running away instead of taking responsibility, and how she never thought I was capable of something like this. I didn't respond. My lawyer handled all communication from that point forward. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. While the divorce was being finalized, something incredible happened at work. The construction company I work for got bought out by a massive national firm. As part of the acquisition, all senior staff got retention bonuses based on our project portfolios and years of service. My bonus was $180,000 after taxes. Combined with my savings and the equity I'd built up, I suddenly had almost $250,000 in liquid assets. Not millionaire money, but definitely enough to completely change my lifestyle. I didn't tell anyone about the windfall except my lawyer and my accountant. I quietly bought a small house in a nice neighborhood, paid cash, upgraded to a brand new F-250, also paid cash, and started looking into some investment opportunities. The divorce moved quickly since we didn't have kids, and I didn't fight Emma on splitting our previous assets 50-50. She got half of our old savings account and the Silverado. I kept my tools and work equipment. She had no idea about the retention bonus since it happened after we separated. During the divorce proceedings, I heard through mutual friends that the family had completely rallied around Megan, like she was some kind of hero who saved Emma from a cheating husband. Megan was apparently milking the attention for all it was worth, posting vague social media messages about protecting the people you love and standing up to toxic men. Meanwhile, Emma was struggling. Her marketing firm had gone through layoffs, and while she kept her job, she'd lost her seniority and taken a pay cut. She was living in a tiny studio apartment across town and driving the Silverado with 180,000 miles on it because she couldn't afford anything better. But Megan? Megan was still living with mommy and daddy, still unemployed, still posting thirst traps on Instagram and swiping through dating apps looking for her meal ticket. About 8 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. It was Emma, and she was crying. "Please don't hang up," she said through the tears. "I know I don't deserve to talk to you, but I need to tell you something." I stayed on the line, curious about what could possibly make her call me after almost a year of no contact. "I found out the truth about Megan," she said, "about what really happened that night. Turns out, Megan had finally found her sugar daddy, a 52-year-old divorced real estate investor named Gary, who owned a few rental properties around Phoenix. Gary wasn't exactly the billionaire of Megan's dreams, but he had money and was stupid enough to fall for her act. Megan immediately moved in with Gary and started posting all over social media about her amazing boyfriend and their luxury lifestyle. The problem was, Gary's idea of luxury was a 4-bedroom house in the suburbs and dinner at chain restaurants. Not exactly the millionaire lifestyle Megan had been promising herself for years. But here's where it gets interesting. Once Megan locked down Gary, she completely turned on her family. She told their parents they were embarrassing and beneath her now, and that she couldn't be associated with poor people anymore. She stopped coming to family events and blocked Emma on all social media. When their dad had chest pains and had to go to the ER, thankfully it was just anxiety, not a heart attack, Megan refused to come to the hospital because she was too busy with Gary. Emma called her crying, begging her to at least call their dad, and Megan told her, "I can't be bothered with your family drama anymore." That's when Emma started seeing Megan's true colors. But the real revelation came a few weeks later. Emma was at a coffee shop near her apartment when she overheard Megan talking to one of her equally trashy friends at the next table. Emma recognized the voice and looked over to see Megan bragging about how she'd gotten rid of Emma's husband. "I totally played the victim," Megan was saying with a laugh. "Told Emma that her loser husband tried to assault me. She ate it up completely. I mean, who was she going to believe? Her loving sister or some construction worker?" Emma sat there in shock as Megan continued describing how she deliberately targeted me because she was jealous of Emma's stable relationship and comfortable life. She admitted that she'd been trying to seduce me for months, and when I rejected her, she decided to destroy my marriage out of spite. "The best part," Megan said, "is that now Emma's broke and miserable, and I'm living with a guy who spoils me. She deserved it for always acting like she was better than me." Emma recorded the rest of the conversation on her phone before Megan noticed her and stormed out. "I am so sorry," Emma sobbed through the phone. "I should have believed you. I should have trusted my own husband over her. I've ruined everything." I listened to the recording she sent me. Hearing Megan laugh about destroying my marriage was infuriating, but also vindicating. Finally, I had proof of what I'd known all along. "What do you want from me, Emma?" I asked when she finished apologizing. "I know this is probably impossible," she said, "but I was hoping maybe we could try to work things out. I know I don't deserve it, but I love you, and I miss you. And I realize now that I made the biggest mistake of my life." I let her talk for a few more minutes about how sorry she was and how she wanted to rebuild our relationship. Then I delivered the news. "Emma, I appreciate the apology, but that ship has sailed. I'm not interested in getting back together." She started crying harder. "Please, just think about it. We were good together. We could be good again." "No, we can't. You chose her over me. You believe the worst possible thing about me with zero evidence. That's not something I can just forgive and forget. But I know the truth now. I'll make it up to you, I promise." That's when I decided to twist the knife a little. "You want to know the funny part, Emma? I'm doing better now than I ever was when we were married. The divorce was the best thing that ever happened to me." "What do you mean?" I told her about the retention bonus, the new house, the financial security I now had. I could hear her sharp intake of breath as she realized what she'd given up. You're rich now?" "I'm comfortable. More comfortable than I ever would have been supporting you and helping out your toxic family for the rest of my life." There was a long silence. "I know you probably hate me," she finally said, "but I'm in a really bad place financially. I lost my benefits when they restructured at work, and my rent went up, and I can barely afford groceries. I was wondering if maybe you could help me out, just until I get back on my feet." I almost burst out laughing. The audacity was incredible. "How much do you need?" I asked, just to see how far she'd go. "Maybe $3,000? I know it's a lot to ask, but I don't have anyone else. My parents are stretched thin with Dad's medical bills, and Megan won't even talk to me anymore." "Emma, I probably spend $3,000 a month just on truck payments and house maintenance. That's not even real money to me anymore." Her voice got hopeful. "So you'll help me?" "Absolutely not." The silence stretched on for almost a minute. "But why? If it's not that much money to you?" "Because you chose Megan over me. You destroyed our marriage based on her lies. Now you can live with the consequences of that choice." "That's not fair," she said, her voice getting angry. "I made a mistake, but I'm trying to make it right. No, you're trying to get money from me because your life sucks now. There's a difference." I hung up and blocked her number. But the story doesn't end there. About 2 weeks later, I got another call from an unknown number. This time, it was Megan. Apparently, Gary had caught her cheating with some 24-year-old personal trainer from her gym and kicked her out. She was back living with her parents, but their dad's medical bills had drained their savings, and they were struggling to keep up with the mortgage payments. "I know we've had our differences," Megan said in this fake sweet voice that made my skin crawl, "but I'm hoping we can put that behind us. Emma told me about your success. I was wondering if maybe you'd be willing to help out the family during this difficult time." The sheer fucking audacity of this woman calling me for money after destroying my marriage was unbelievable. "Help out how?" I asked, curious to see how far she'd go. "Well, Mom and Dad are behind on the mortgage, and there's the medical bills, and I'm looking for work, but it's hard to find something that pays enough." She rattled off a sob story that probably added up to about $5,000 a month in expenses. "That's a lot of money, Megan." "I know, but you're doing so well now, and we're still family in a way. And I was thinking maybe we could work out some kind of arrangement." "What kind of arrangement?" Her voice got lower and more sultry. "Well, you're single now, and I'm single again, and maybe we could help each other out. I could show you how grateful I am for your generosity." This bitch was literally offering to prostitute herself to me for money after destroying my marriage. The level of shamelessness was actually impressive. That's an interesting offer, Megan. I knew you'd understand. You always seemed like a smart man who knows a good deal when he sees one. Here's my counteroffer, I said. I want you to call Emma right now and put her on speakerphone. Then I want you to admit that you lied about everything. Tell her exactly what you did and why you did it. Admit that you tried to seduce me, and when I rejected you, you made up that whole story to destroy my marriage.